Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? So, I wanted to get on here and I wanted to address a comment that I received on my video from yesterday. But before I do, I just want to say I am immensely thankful for the responses and the comments that I got on my video yesterday and just overall on this channel. When I started this channel, I wanted it to just be kind of this thing where I went and tried this and I went and tried that, and I really never thought that it would turn into what it is becoming, which I'm not even sure. When you're in the transition period of evolving, you don't really know like where you're going to end up, I think, which is kind of like one of the coolest things about life, right? And where this channel is kind of like heading is not necessarily where I thought it would start. I think some people misunderstood maybe when I was talking about changing the title of this channel. I had said that I was thinking about changing it from Peter Does Stuff to something like Life with Peter or Peter's Life or something like that. Nothing about this channel would change. I would continue to do the shopping videos and the Tik Tok hacks and this and that. I just feel like for me, it's like the coolest thing. Like I wake up and I'm like, I can do whatever I want to do on this channel. I mean, I could do that on any channel, but like on this channel, like I literally can just do whatever, and I'm loving just like sitting down and being able to talk. My vlog that I drive around every night for an hour and a half and I just talk is like my heartstone. It's so cathartic for me, and it's just kind of like my end of the day diary that I get to drive around and just kind of, process what happened that day and tell stories from my past and things. And sometimes I get very emotional, and sometimes I laugh a lot, and sometimes it makes me think about things that I want to talk about over here. And I got this comment on my video that I did yesterday over here where I was talking about how this period of from November to my sobriety date is always really difficult for me every year because it kind of reminds me of the last 4 to 6 weeks before I got sober. And so in my head, I relive a lot of that time. And so anyway, then I got in my vlog last night and I was talking about this idea that we have where people say, like, I live with no regrets. Like, I have no regrets. I'm not the person that can say that, in all honesty, And I know it sounds good. It looks good on a meme, right? Like, live life with no regrets. But I don't know that that's a reality for me. It just isn't. And I have lots of things that I regret in my life. I have a lot of things I wish I had done differently, I remember in the last conversation that I was able to have with my mom, I asked her, about like the things that she wished she had done. And she said to me, at the end of your life, it's not the things that you did that you regret. It's the things that you never tried. Like, I specifically remember those exact words of what she said. And I think about that a lot. I think about the things that fear has stood in the way for me to try, even just like with YouTube. Like, when I started on YouTube, like, I was watching all these booktube videos. I started with my booktube channel. I'd like played around with YouTube before, but like really made a commitment to YouTube. I was like watching all these booktube videos and I wanted to be part of booktube. And I can remember I like said something to Alex about, starting a YouTube channel, like making a commitment to it and posting regularly. And I said something to my friend Tanya, and they were supportive, but I think they thought it was just going to be like, oh, something else, another project that Peter's going to start. I start a lot of projects, because I'm an ideas guy, and I think that's what life's about. And, I remember sitting down there at our dining room table, which is kind of like our desk. And I remember sitting down there and thinking to myself, I'm gonna lose like 60 pounds, and then I'm going to start my channel, because I can't start my channel because people will see me as really heavy and I'll get made fun of, and on and on and on, right? And I remember just this split second thinking to myself what my mother had said, and I was like, if you don't start it now, you're never gonna start it, I still haven't lost those 60 pounds. In fact, I've put some of it on, but I've had a hell of a ride on YouTube. You know, I really have. And I mean, 6 channels. I've met some amazing people. I've had some amazing experiences. I get to interact with you guys on a daily basis. You know, I get to be with my dogs all day while I just come up with fun ideas of things that I want to, you know, do on videos. I'm having the time of my life, and I'm so incredibly thankful to each and every one of you out there. And I want to say, you know, thank you so much for all of the comments and the support that you've gotten on this channel. And you know, I want to continue to do the cooking hacks and the this and the that, you know, the shops, because I have fun doing that. But I want this channel just to be whatever I want to do it on a daily basis, which is why I truly am thinking about changing the title to something like Life with Peter or Peter's Life or something like that. But I was looking through the comments because last night in my vlog, I was talking about, regrets. That's what I was saying. I was talking about regrets, and I lose my thoughts easily, do you see? And so I was saying that, you know, like, I read a lot of these Blake Crouch books. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's an author, and he talks a lot about physics. And no, I'm not a brainiac, but he kind of dumbs it down into fiction, you know? And a lot of what he writes about are, like, multi-dimensions and different worlds. So, like, for every life that I have, you know, like, the whole idea with, like, what was the movie back in the day with Gwyneth Paltrow where, you know, like, something doors or whatever, sliding doors, that for like every life we have like a 1,000 other lives, right? Like that each second splits another, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. So I was saying that, you know, I've often wondered to myself, like, what would have happened had I never picked up? Because I do believe that I can be an alcoholic and an addict predisposed to addiction and never have picked up. There are a lot of addicts and alcoholics out there that are educated that they have a family disease and they never pick up alcohol. They never become addicts because they just know that that's not going to work for them. What would have happened if that had been my life and I had never picked up, you know? And I was talking about having watched videos back in the day where, you know, like people on YouTube would talk about being very involved in high school, and even though they were out and things, you know, and I thought, like, that would never have been possible for me. But would it have been? You know, I mean, I was so horrifically bullied and so made fun of. Like, really, how much worse could it have been if I had come out? You know, I sit here and I tell myself, well, you would have got your, you know, butt kicked on a daily basis, or people would have, like, damaged your property. You know, that was, I mean, I didn't get my butt kicked, but that was, I was threatened, you know, physically in all kinds of ways. And my stuff was already being, you know, damaged. So I don't really know how much worse it could have been. And I think, like, in retrospect, having the confidence and the self-value that I have today, I wish that I could go back to high school, and I wish that, you know, I could have just participated. Because I think that participating in life is so important, you know? It's like, I talked about my social anxiety. You know, once I've started working on my social anxiety and I've started to show up to things in my life that I'm invited to, you know, my life has only gotten richer. You know, when I go to a party that I'm terrified to go to and then I go and I have a great time, my life has only been richer. And so I look back, and I had fun with my friends in high school. We had a good time, you know, but I often wonder, like, what would have happened if I had gone, like, tried out for plays or been part of drama or choir. Y'all know I love to sing. And, you know, I wonder, like, what would have happened? What would that high school experience have looked like for me? What would it have led to? Would I have gone to a college campus instead of staying here in a city school and gotten my own apartment, which definitely quadrupled my, you know, drinking and using because I had such amount of freedom? You know, what would have happened? Would I have met an entirely different group of people than I did? Well, probably, you know. Would I have, you know, and I said in my vlog last night, I said, you know, would I have gone to New York City and ended up working for a fashion house because I always want to be a fashion designer? Or would I gotten my, you know, MFA in creative writing and, you know, a doctorate and ended up, you know, being a college professor teaching creative writing, you know? Or maybe I just would have lived in some log cabin in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, one of my favorite cities, you know, and worked at a local gas station. And, you know, who knows what my life would have turned out. And I think that's the amazing thing about life. And I can remember when I got sober, somebody said something to me. I don't even remember what they said, but it was something about, like, every day I get up, you know, I look to see like who's the new person that I'm going to meet today that might be the best friend that I don't even know that I have yet, right? Or like what's going to happen today that's exciting. And I remember I started looking at the world in a completely different way. Like I started looking at the world like, oh my God, what exciting thing is going to happen today? Instead of in a point of fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen today that's going to terrify me, right? And so I started looking at life in a completely different way. And I can remember going to school, like I was in college, right? So I'm going back and I'm finishing up my degree, and I can remember thinking to myself, you know, like, who am I going to meet today? And that is going to, like, change my life forever. And interestingly enough, I took a intro to film class, and I met this guy, and, hold on a second, spam call. I met this guy, and, we very quickly fell very much in love, and it's an interesting story. I've talked about it on my vlog. I found out not too long ago that I found out, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, that he had passed away 2 or 3 years before that. It's really sad, and it's kind of I actually did a video about it over here one time, and a long time ago, and I've talked about it on my vlog at length, because we were always like, well, it's a long story. I'll tell that story on another day. He, you know, like, when he was single, I wasn't. And when I was single, he wasn't. Those kinds of things. And it just never really worked out. And, but I think about him often. So, you know, like, that was, like, I was open to that. And that was kind of, like, an exciting thing, you know, like, being sober and all of that. But anyway, and, you know, first love and sobriety is kind of scary. But I received this comment on my video, and the comment is from, hold on, I'm going to make sure I get it right. I think it's Hill, and Hill asked, do you think the fact that you had such a rough time in school being bullied for being LGBTQ initially drove you to drugs and alcohol to numb the pain? And I think it's a really interesting and appropriate question. And, you know, I have talked about this on my vlog. I actually haven't talked about it, like, at length on my vlog. Let me just tell you something, okay? When I went into treatment, this is kind of a funny story. I'm still good friends with my counselor today. I call her every year on my sobriety birthday. She saved my life. You know, she was the first person in a very long time that told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And I'm so thankful for that. And it's so interesting because, like, I look back now and, like, she's only like 3 years older than me. She had just graduated with her master's degree, you know? But at the time, which is so interesting because my best friend, Tanya, went through the same treatment program that I did, but like a year later. And by that point, my counselor, who had been a men's counselor, had switched over to the women's unit, and she was a women's counselor. And so Tanya and I both had the same counselor. We've sent her a lot of referrals through the years because she's in private practice now. But anyway, and I absolutely adore her and love her. And, so anyway, I can remember, like, before I went to my very first group, when I had been moved from detox to the rehab unit, I, like, went over and I, like, stood in her doorway, and I, like, knocked on her door, and she was like, yes, and I said, well, I'm so-and-so, and she said, yeah, I got your paperwork this morning, it's nice to meet you. And I said, so, I just wanted to talk to you about, before we go into group, I said, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that, so I'm gay, I don't know if you knew that, and I said, but we don't need to talk about it while I'm here. And she said, oh, okay. She said, so you're not out? Like, I said, oh, no, I'm out to my friends and family. And she said, and you don't think maybe people might think that you're gay? And I said, oh, no, I don't think so at all. And she said, okay. I said, okay, good. So we got a group, and she was of the belief very much that my feelings about my own sexuality had a lot to do with my addiction. So we go to group, and we're split into, like, different groups, right? There was, like, an alcohol-specific group, there was, like, a drug-specific group, and then there was, like, a group that was, like, a mixture of the both. And I was in the red group, and so I go in there, and it's like the majority of the guys are in there. Well, this is a true story for back in the day. Back in the day, most insurance companies, you could get 1 30-day treatment a year. Okay, that if you like, so a lot of these guys that, like, worked in factories and places like that. And let me just tell you, they took me in as their own. I mean, they made me feel so loved, and it was really the beginning for me of realizing, truly, like, in my heart, realizing that we're all just human beings, you know, like, we're just really not that different. And they were so kind to me. And so anyway, it's all these like older guys, right, and me in this group, because this was a group that was like heavily of like mostly drinkers. And my addiction, even though I had a lot of drug use, was the primary issue was alcohol. Like, I was detoxed 7 days coming off of alcohol because it was so horrendous. And so I sit in group, and she introduces me, and she says, "This is Peter. He's our new member of group." And, I mean, there's probably 10 or 15 guys in this group, right? I can see the room in my head. It's like this little room, and it had a window, and it was snowing like crazy. And so I've got pajama pants on, you know, and there I am, you know. So anyway, she's like, "This is Peter, and he's our newest member to group. I would like you guys to welcome him." And everybody's like, "Hi, Peter." And so she goes, "Oh, by the way, he's gay, but he doesn't think that we need to talk about that in the group. So I just want to put that out there." I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she just did that. So anyway, but I just like kind of let it fly, right? And none of them cared. They didn't care, you know? What's interesting about that, though, is if you had asked me at that time, and if you had asked me that first year and a half that I got sober, I mean, I want to almost even kind of say my first, "Hi, honey, how are you?" My first 2 to 5 years. If you had asked me if being gay or being bullied had anything to do with my being an addict or an alcoholic, I would have said absolutely 100% not. Not at all. It has nothing to do with that. And in retrospect, when I look back on my addiction today at 26 years and 11 months, actually, you know what I should do? I haven't looked up this forever. So there's apps that you can get that will tell you how long you've been sober. You guys want to know exactly how long I've been sober today? I can't even see it. This is what happens when you get older and you can't. You need your reading glasses for everything. Oh, it's right here. So I've been sober for this. It's called the 12-step app. I've been sober for 26.97 years, 323.7 months, 908,054 days, and 230. Well, this is like broken down. 236,488 hours. If you ask me today, what I would say to you is, I believe that 50% of it is because I was predisposed to be an alcoholic and an addict. I really, truly believe in the predisposition of addiction. Do I also think that people can be learned or be taught? Yes. I think there are a lot of addicts out there specifically that, you know, are medically managed with pain management, and then it's not managed well, and before they even know it, and it's not their fault, they're addicted to substances that they can't get themselves off of. I think it's horrendous in this company. It's the whole pharma thing. Don't even get me started on that. I think there's enough Netflix documentaries out there and Hulu documentaries to talk about that. You know, it breaks my heart, you know, and a lot of them are people that are older, that are hooked on pain medication for their backs and things like that, and there's just no, okay, that's a whole other conversation. But I think 50% of it is me being predisposed of being an alcoholic and an addict. I don't know how I would break down the other 50%, but I would have to say that I think at that time, 40% of it, 10% of it was just because I love to drink and use drugs. It didn't work for me. I couldn't control it, obviously, because I'm an addict and an alcoholic, and that means I can't control substances. You know, I think 10% of it is I just loved it. I loved the feeling. I loved that it did all that for me. But I would say 30 to 40% of it probably was that I was gay, honestly. And it wasn't, I don't know so much that it was about me being bullied. I really don't. Like, just put Wonder Woman's lasso of truth around me. I don't know that it had so much to do with me being bullied. I really think it had to do with my lack of willingness to accept my own sexuality. I will tell you one thing that was really hard for me after I came out was that all of these years of being called gay and all these different names, right? Like, that when I finally, and I think this is why sometimes a lot of like gay people take back their terms, is because it's empowering to them. But I felt like they had stolen part of my story. Like, that was my story to come out on, you know, not somebody else's, to say he's gay and all that kind of stuff. I really think today, like, my lack of, and I've met so many gay men that really, like, struggle being gay, like, because of the religion that they were brought up in, or because of their lack of acceptance by their families, or just societal acceptance, you know? I mean, we're just, like, I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, we've just, like, the acceptance level of, like, even just, you know, noticing and accepting gay couples is just, like, starting to really become kind of mainstream. I mean, it just, I don't know, like, if you guys weren't around in 1990, trust me, it wasn't the case. I mean, you wanted to get, like, beat up, hold hands with another guy walking down the street. I can remember going to Boys Town in Chicago for the very first time. I was probably 18 or 19 years old. And I was blown away, you know. But we're talking about a segment of, you know, a city that people felt safe in because it was gay owned and operated and gay people lived there. You know, it was all LGBTQ, like, owned and operated, that area. And I can remember just being like, oh my God, blown away by the fact that it was such a gay-centered area. So yeah, I really do believe that a lot of my addiction had to do with, I think not so much, like, I think when it started, it was about numbing my feelings of being, like, who I really was. Like, you know, in my head, I would have those conversations where I knew I was gay, but it didn't seem like I could realistically ever come out, right? Which is so funny to me because I had parents that were totally accepting of it, but I think the knowing that and the doing it are two completely different things, and I just was terrified. And the reason why I think this is an important topic for me to talk about over here is that if your parents or friends or siblings of somebody that you think is struggling maybe with their sexuality, I think to approach them and say, hey, like, you know, you can talk to me about anything, you know, like, and be blatant about it and say, like, you know, like, I don't mean to offend you, but, like, are you struggling with, like, maybe sexuality issues or something? Feel free that you can talk to me about that. I want you to be open to me. You know, like, I had nobody to talk to. I mean, I could have in retrospect, but I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. I had one counselor, because I had to, of course, always go to counselors when I was growing up because my parents were divorced. That's why. Not because of the millions of problems that I got into or whatever. Well, that too, but I had this one counselor, and I can remember I was standing, like, at the door when I was getting ready to leave. I was, like, probably 16 or 17 at the time, and she looked at me. I mean, we never talked about anything important, and I was getting ready to leave, and she looked at me, and she said, oh, and next time I think that we're going to talk about your sexuality. I got down into my dad's car, and I said, I'm never talking to her again. I'm not coming back here. And he goes, well, what happened? And I said, oh, she's worthless. She doesn't, we don't even talk about me, nothing about me. I never went back to her, right? So years later, when I came out to my dad, and I don't know, it was around that time Boo Radley thinks he's a cat. He's always just rubbing up against me. We were talking about it. He goes, I knew something happened that day that you came to the appointment. And he was like, but she wouldn't tell me what it was. And she said it wasn't, you know, like a dangerous issue. I think it very much is a dangerous issue. I think we've got kids killing themselves over these issues today. You know, we've got so many scary things happening, you know. And then it numbed those feelings for me. And then when I came out, what it did is it allowed me to be Party Peter, you know. I could be whatever you wanted me to be. I could be the hottest guy in the club, you know, and that fed into an eating disorder that, you know, of me being the thinnest I've ever been in my entire life, manically running. I mean, I at a different point in my life, like, ran and was healthy and eating healthy. At that point in my life, like, I mean, I got very thin, you know, it was so important to me how I looked. It was a mess, you know, and I wanted to be seen as the craziest partier, the most fun person in the world, you know. And I think one thing I will say, if I am grateful for one thing about that period of my life where I was a complete mess, is I think that my absolute drunkenness, blacking out, passing out, was not conducive to a life of promiscuity. And I think that, you know, I probably would have been very much during that point and put myself in harm's way and got myself in very dangerous situations, I think, you know. And I just always was passed out on somebody's floor. Or, I mean, I laugh, it's sad, you know, or one of my friends would bring me home or whatever, you know, or you know, whatever. It just was, being that wasted was not conducive to being super, super promiscuous. And, I don't know. I think, I've lost a lot of friends to HIV and AIDS. And I think, you know, coming out at the tail end of the AIDS crisis was really scary. I can remember when I came out to my mom, and she said to me, I'm really scared for you. And I said, oh, you know, Mom, like, whatever. And she said, no, society is not kind. I said, I'll be safe, you know, whatever, talking about practicing safer sex practices. And she said, I'm not talking about that. She said, if, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, if that would ever happen. She said, I'm talking about that society is not kind to gay people. And, you know, sometimes I wish that my mom was still here to see that society, or part of it, is very kind to gay people today. But I think of all of my friends that I've lost, you know, and I think I drank myself through a whole period of my life. And I think that's why my cousin texted me today very nicely, and she said, I watched your last 2 videos, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And I am okay, you know. This is just stuff that goes on in my head, you know. So the answer to that question, Hill, is yes, very much so. I do think that that is a huge reason why I drank and used. When you get older, you know, you start looking back on your life, I think. And it's like, here's the thing with regrets, right? That I have a lot of regrets of ways that I wish I could have done things differently. But that being said, I have like a life beyond my wildest dreams, right? So if things didn't happen the way they did, I wouldn't have the life that I have today. You know? And so, did life turn out the way that it was supposed to? I think so. I 100% think that this is the life that I'm supposed to be living. You know, somebody said this is recovery saying, they said it in a comment. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I know. But I am. I believe that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, you know? And, I don't know. And in a weird kind of way, although I don't wish this on anybody, I wish that people would have somebody to talk to, or go talk to a counselor or a parent or a friend or whatever. I didn't feel comfortable doing that at that time. So yeah, I guess I did. And I drank away a lot of that pain. And I think that's why a lot of people end up as alcoholics and addicts. They are medicating that pain, you know, that emotional pain. Which is why when we get sober, we have to work through all of that stuff, you know. Funny story I do have to tell you real quick. So when I did my first four-step inventory, which is where we make a searching and fearless moral inventory of our lives, the fourth part of that, well, you do your resentments, and then you do anger, and then, or you do resentments, and then you do your fears, and then you do conduct. And part of that is sexual conduct. And so, speaking of, you know, behavior. And so I can remember when I did my first four-step inventory with my very heterosexual sponsor, and that's your fifth step where you go over that. And I wrote everything in code because this is who, as alcoholics and addicts, we think very highly of ourselves, you know. And I thought, oh, if anybody ever finds my inventory, then they'll know everything that I did, you know, and they'll think, oh my gosh, you know. Oh my gosh. What I realized later was, I just wasn't as exciting as I thought I was, you know? So anyway, but, yeah. It's a good life, isn't it, Boo Radley? He's yawning. You want to say hi to the people? He said, I want to say hi to the people. What have you been doing all day today? He said, well, we've been mostly sleeping today. Yeah? Yeah? All right. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow.